Hello, I'm Kieran, and today we are reading Greenlight Medical Anatomy of Kindness by Lunasher on AO3. Chapter 4. Surprise! You're not dead. Shota woke to the sound of a heartbeat that wasn't his. It pulsed through the room in a soft, mechanical rhythm, steady, relentless, and too clean to belong to a living thing. He blinked against what he expected to be harsh white lights, only to be wet with near darkness. His eyes refused to focus at first, his vision swimming. The air smelled faintly sterile and of antiseptic. A hospital. It must be night if the white lights weren't blinding him. Probably turned off for the night. That was his first thought. His second was that he shouldn't be thinking at all. He remembered the alley, the remnants of cold rain, the blood on his fingers, the pressure of a hand pressed uselessly against his side. His hero costume had been heavy with blood and rainwater, his costume pieces gone together with the tracker with no way for anyone to find him. He had been sure that was it. The world had been fading, fleck by fleck, until his consciousness collapsed. So, why was he still here? Shota tried to sit up, but pain flared across his ribs like a live wire, forcing a hiss through his teeth. A heart monitor somewhere to his left beeped faster in protest. He closed his eyes again as he collapsed back into the sheets. His fingers brushed fabric, not his hero costume, nor the usual scratchy hospital gown either, but something softer, unfamiliar. If he was in a hospital room, that meant they would have notified his husband. Oh God, Hisashi was probably worried off his mind sitting somewhere in the room. He felt something sitting on his nose and mouth, fitting snugly. Probably an oxygen mask. It made opening his mouth just a bit harder, but he managed, and when he finally rasped, Zashi. The name barely made it out. His throat felt like it had been rubbed raw with sandpaper. No answer, just a steady artificial heartbeat and the faint hum of a lamp. He opened his eyes and turned his head slightly, scanning the room. It looked like a hospital. White walls, the random yellow stripe going around the room, vinyl flooring, but something was off. It was too empty, too quiet. The room was too small, the ceiling too short. There were no nurses, no footsteps in the hall, no distant voices. The door didn't look fireproof compared to the ones he saw at a hospital usually. It was quite small. It was strange. As opposed to the empty hospital rooms, there was a random equipment sitting around the shelves that he couldn't name right now. Opposite his bed stood a large white closet, the doors without handles but only a singular keyhole. To his left was a singular, normal nightstand, not those on wheels that would usually had in hospitals. A bit of space to walk around the bed and a regular window with blackout curtains. There seemed to be light trapped behind the curtains, eager to get into the room. It almost looked like a storage room with a bed shoved inside, instead of the standard recovery wing. Patting the sides of the bed, he couldn't find the standard metal rails, nor the plastic controls to raise and lower the bed. His instincts prickled. Aizawa Shota had probably been in enough strange situations to trust one thing above all. If something looked safe in the first moment, but very odd in the second, it probably wasn't safe at all. His breathing threatened to pick up as he forcefully evened it out, eyes narrowing as he studied the ceiling. If this was a fucked up version of the afterlife, it got some pretty shitty decor. And still, the question lingered like static in the back of his mind. If he hadn't died in the alley, then where exactly had he woken up? The heartbeat on the heart monitor picked it up, nearing his slowly growing panic. Before he could panic over the increased rhythm alerting someone, something else gave a beep. His head snapped to the side just now before noticing something had been hanging from the back of the heart monitor, attached to a tube. What he now noticed, a mask on his face. Oh fuck, was the only thing he could think of before the machine let out a small, soft whirring. His already heavy with sleep hands rushed to his face to try and claw the mask off, but it was too late. With a panic-addled brain, he made one mistake of breathing in quickly, hoping to catch a fresh breath before whatever the machine released reached him. But he miscalculated how fast it would be. The gas reached his nose with a deep breath and got it all in his lungs. Quickly, his hands became numb, growing heavy as it filled with lead and fell away from the mask. He shook his head, hoping to get the mask off that way, but even with the growing weariness of his head, he felt the silicone strap digging into the side of his face. Continuing to free himself was a futile task. He knew when to give up. Again, the world tilted, narrowed, and went black. For just a second, he wondered what it was with him and passing out lately. Shota woke up again, feeling well rested like never before, or at least in the past 3 months. For a minute, he rested his eyes, reveling in the absence of a constant headache that came with rarely sleeping. Briefly, he thought he could spend the afternoon with Sashi and maybe take the other out on a date, on account of Shota feeling well for once. Then he remembered where he fell asleep. Instantly, he was wide awake and raised his hands to tear out the mask. Or at least, he tried. His hands moved quickly, but were snapped back by restraints on his wrist. He opened his eyes once again, surprised at the low light in the room, and found metal handcuffs restraining him to the metal bars installed on the side of his bed. He gaped at the bars. Either he had been completely delirious and had not noticed, or these weren't actually there before. "Yeah, it doesn't happen that I have to reinstall these," came a grating voice to his right. Shota instinctively flinched away, moving as far as the handcuffs would allow him. His eyes locked to the source of the sound. It was no doubt a villain. The person was a bit shorter than the average, and for a second his head reeled with the thought that it could be a teen in front of him. But in the Asia Quirks, people of any height existed. Their stature was lean, nearly every inch of skin covered by something, so he couldn't actually judge if they were wrong. They were wearing a white lab coat over a dark red hoodie, their hood covering their head and falling just above the eyes. No hair peeked out from underneath, their eyes similar to Shoto's own. The same charcoal black stared at him while he assessed the enemy. The lower half of their face was covered by what seemed to be a regular black medical mask, though it seemed awfully thick and glimmered weirdly in the light. Thinking back of how the voice sounded, there is no doubt there was a voice changer hidden in there somewhere. Shota attempted to calm his racing heart and not let his nerves show. He couldn't let his guard down and had to figure out what they wanted with him. At last, the heart monitor betrayed him and beat frantically. The villain chuckled. Their deep-pitched voice surprisingly laid their clipboard down and raised their hands in a placating manner. They pulled a chair across and lowered themselves into it, at a speed as if they were telegraphing their movements, folding their hands in their lap. "Don't worry, take your time." They tilted their head. "I understand that you are confused now. Feel free to ask any questions that would help you reorient yourself." The villain's eyes crinkled around the edges, making it seem as if they were smiling. Shota's brow furrowed. He had to think about this carefully. He couldn't give any indication of his weakness, and he had to ask questions that wouldn't agitate the villain to make them think about hurting him. "What do you want with me?" Well, that just fell out of his mouth. It seemed like to be due to the sedating gas earlier. His mouth isn't quite willing to cooperate with his brain. He eyed the villain warily. His tone had been dry as he asked the direct question about their plans, so surely they would be agitated right now. But no, their face, or at least what was visible of it, melted into a sympathetic look. "Oh dear, you must be pretty out of it." "Don't worry, that's normal. Plenty of other vigilantes like yourself think they've been captured their first time around too." Vigilante? Like himself? Did this villain not realize they have a pro-hero in their captivity right now? Was that not their goal? The masked villain continued on. "You are currently in the famed Greenlight emergency clinic for vigilantes. Rack your brain a little, man. Remember passing out on the doorstep when you got here?" Shota stilled. If their words were to believe, then he would not be in the hand of the villains right now. Possibly, the clinic was still run by a psychotic villain, although he had never heard of this clinic before. But, to be fair, it was solely for vigilantes, and then there was the obvious reason for it. "Oh wait, do they think that he's a vigilante too, and seeked out the help of an illegal clinic?" Shota's brain was running at a higher speed than it did during the fights. The pause he had allowed to form was just about too long to be realistic, so he had to think fast now. It's probably best to play along for now. Pretend he is a vigilante and then come to the clinic for a purpose instead of accidentally passing out in front of it. Well, this is gonna be fun. He gave a tentative nod to the previous question, the oxygen mask on his face rubbing weirdly against his stubble. Great. I'm the doctor, as that is in my alias. As you probably guessed, thank you for trusting me with your health tonight. And they bowed their head at him. However, to continue your treatment, I must demand something in turn. Ah, there it was, the catch that came with service. How fun that he will now have to pay probably a high sum of money to an illegal clinic that he didn't even want to go to the first place. Actually, never mind. He should be glad that he isn't dead right now and someone patched him up well enough for him to continue living. How much? He forced himself to grin out. The doctor blinked at him owlishly, hands freezing where they had reached towards the clipboard. Then they rolled their eyes like a mildly exasperated parent. What do you even know about my clinic before coming here? They chuckled. It almost sounds as if you stumbled across me without actually knowing of my services. The doctor stared intently at his face. Shota screamed internally about how close this was to the truth. Well, time to improvise and hope this sounds realistic. I only got told that there would be someone here who was willing to help. He had to actively stop himself from biting the inside of his cheek out of nervousness. I was never told about what it would cost me, and I don't think it mattered to me when I just wanted to be found and healed. There, sprinkle in a bit of truth to your lie to make it sound more believable. That should work. He looked down at the blankets covering him to appear lost in thought, as if contemplating the price of him coming here. A snort sounded from the doctor. Who the fuck told you this little? Shota blue screen somewhere in the back of his head from panic. Okay. Who would be able to tell a vigilante about a clinic only vigilantes were welcome in? His mind popped a suggestion in front of his brain. Vigilante Raven, an uncaught individual who hides behind comms. The police didn't have many recordings of him or his quirk, but enough caught criminals raving about how that bastard pretended to be one of them and then orchestrated for them to be caught by either the police or other vigilantes. He was someone that was well known to communicate with others and trade information with them. If anyone would know an underground clinic and spread word to other vigilantes, it would be him. I heard of you from Raven. He hadn't even noticed that the doctor had been tense, but now that their shoulders relaxed, it was obvious about how high-strung they had been. Yeah, okay, makes sense. Of course that bastard would come over to give information and help new vigilante, then forgot they'd tell me about it. The doctor grabbed a clipboard and smoothed over the blank white pages, while chuckling. For a second I was worried that I'd treated a villain, with how little you actually knew of this. But don't worry, I get it. Raven, that forgetful idiot, just likes to assume the clinic is common knowledge, even amongst new vigilantes. Should have noted down internally that add that to the vigilante's profile. Okay, so, the doctor clicked their pen, your payment includes your alias, your quirk, the district you patrol, the number of your workplace if you have one, and the personal telephone number. This hospital runs on charity donations, so if you actually want to leave some money like you assumed at first, leave it in a box on the doorstep in some days and don't tell me where you get it from. Is that agreeable? Shota blinked. Why? The question was stupid, especially idiotic for someone who was playing along with the role as a vigilante who knew why they were there. But oh well, it already slipped out of him. The doctor's eyes gave him an understanding smile again. By coming to this place, you agree to work with the Greenlight network and be on call for certain days for its members. If you refuse, then I will simply call another vigilante and they will escort you out before they decide what will happen to you. Shota hummed, the Greenlight network. He himself had never heard of it and was pretty sure if any other vigilantes he'd captured had ever mentioned something like it, he would be the first to know. So Couchy would immediately get him on the case of a secret vigilante organization. Well, maybe he will. This just screamed for him to infiltrate the network, now that he knew and had a chance to. He groaned to himself. Usually there were other people involved in an undercover mission like this. He crafted a persona for him with a precision and just sent the files over to him before the mission started. But it seemed he was already too deep for someone else's help now. Shoto was on his own this time, but wouldn't be an underground pro if he wouldn't be able to handle this. Time to create a vigilante persona out of thin air. After all is said and done, thank you for listening.